Okay, everybody, I don't know if I can pull this off. Let me try though. Just walking along now, listening to in my headphones, the Moody Blues 7th Sojourn, and just, you know, the more I was listening, the slower my steps were. Just easing my pace down, and just it took me back, transported me back to the 70s, and to the latter part of the hippie era, and I could just feel it. I could smell it. I could sense it in my brain. The element of that period, the way of living, the manner of thinking, the atmosphere of laughter and of optimism that pervaded and I just thought I'd turn the camera on and try to capture it for you, share it for those who didn't experience it. As all good revolutions do, they sometimes go in an extreme elements in some ways from what they were rebelling from, and the hippies, of course, were striking out in love against the establishment of steadfast obligation and rigorous commitment to societal standards. And they did so in a striking manner in many ways, and the results sometimes were a fascinating a kaleidoscope of emotions and anticipation for what the future might bring, the age of Aquarius, the potential for humanity, and all of this was buoyed in an incredible optimism, and my family embraced that in about 1971, I think it was. So the Summer of Love '69 had its wake. It was like a breaking upon the scene into the culture, and my father, mother, and their confederates, their friends, embraced it in their own way. They didn't become out and out hippies, but lifestyle became one of the loving freedom lovers. And we lived for several years in the pale of that experience. As a child, I remember my haircuts growing longer by the year. I remember the outings becoming more adventurous and more easygoing. I remember the music becoming louder and more omnipresent, simply being almost like a background for life. The sounds of Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and Gordon Lightfoot, and as I've mentioned before, the heavier stuff, the Bachman Turner Overdrive. Of course, there was the beautiful lighter stuff, the Simon and Garfunkel, the types of bands. I wish I could remember the bands that my dad. The Moody Blues, of course, the Pink Floyd, and so many others that were the hallmarks of that era. Now, what I'm going to try to do now is just capture for you more of the less of the thought elements, but more of the sensation of growing up in that period and being a child of a family that had embraced that. It was a world of little criticism. It's funny because I just made a video yesterday about criticism. That experience was the world of little criticism. The shutters of the roadblocks were pounded open, broken aside, and the potential for what life could bring was seen as limitless. As a child, I was not disciplined in school. I was basically allowed to proceed at my own pace, which was a pretty slow pace. I was not criticized for my inability to finish my studies. I have almost no memory of ever doing homework, and I did academically. I was a failure. I was a horrible student. Yet, in no way did my mom and dad criticize my brother or I for our lack of academic achievement, and instead they encouraged us that we would one day discover in earnest where our path might lie, that all we needed to do to get there was simply to seek after the things that warmed our hearts and that brought light to our eyes. And to that end, we were not offered any guidance. For the most part, we were basically left on our own. It was a beautiful freedom at the time. Became a scary thing later on in life. While I struggled to find direction, and now again, as I rest in my more mature years, I'm not that old yet, but in my more mature years, I've come to find comfort in both my the limited few accomplishments that I have and the astounding number of limitations that I've discovered. And I think that in some ways I owe that, I'm getting into another topic now, I owe that to my parents, that appreciate that allowing me to fail as a young boy has allowed me to fail, be comfortable with my failures now as a grown man. But I digress. But basically, let me get back to it. The sensation was one of dry, warm summer grass, and I mean dry. I mean like the brown wheat in the wind, walking through the grass with it. Not the green lush stuff. That's more of the passion of love. This was more of the dry wheat. A dry grass in a summer field with the heat bearing down, and short sleeve shirts and a tank top and long hair, and having gone a day without a bath, having enjoyed a good meal and just walking through the field, feeling the scratch upon your ankles and smelling the cut grass in the dry cut grass, the dry cut hay. I'm trying to capture it in your nostrils, feeling the sun coming down, the burn of a day-old sunburn, a good sunburn from being on a vigorous day outdoors, the swell of muscles used in earnest as a boy, the sense of activity, of ready to jump and go for it a moment, the sense of mind filled with potential, with the idea of a bright future, untainted by any concern for failure, because failure was nothing more than a realization of inherent limitations. There was no crime in it in discovering that. That was simply a track in the course in the track that was perhaps one not to go down, or perhaps one to achieve, one to pursue if one desired, but without criticism of the failure, but with an understanding of it and an acceptance of it. This period when I was roughly 9 to about 14 years old was a wild and delighted period for me, and one that I shared with my brother and my family, and it set the tone for my later living. And perhaps now the reason that I maintain an optimistic sense in almost any circumstance is in part due to that, because I see nothing but a future full of potential, of warm grass and delighted summers and the experience of love and life in perpetuity, even after the end of days, because my essence will be gone, but the continuation of the species will go on. I am grateful for my hippie roots and for the lessons thus learned, though perhaps sophomoric and immature in many ways, and so be it. Nevertheless, it was a season to remember, and true summer of love and the boyhood of my youth. Okay, take care, everybody. Have a great day. Hope every moment and essence, a moment and an instant in your life is filled with the essence that makes it the best possible. Take care, even the bad stuff, because it's all in the end. It's just what it is. Bye bye.